Chapter 1. The Dream Begins. Lena had always been captivated by movement. As a young girl, she would watch in awe as ballerinas danced on television, their movements graceful and effortless, their bodies telling stories without words. She knew, from the moment she first saw a ballet performance, that she wanted to be one of them. But dreams weren't easy to chase, especially not when they seemed so far out of reach. Growing up in a small town, Lena didn't have access to ballet schools or professionals to help guide her. There were no grand theaters or famous dancers nearby to inspire her up close. Yet, her passion burned brightly, and every day after school, she would practice in front of a mirror, mimicking the moves she had seen in videos, or at the local community center's dance performances. The wooden floors of her childhood home became her stage, and the mirror her only audience. Despite the lack of formal training, Lena's determination to pursue ballet only grew stronger. She was an only child, raised by her single mother, who worked tirelessly as a nurse to make ends meet. Lena admired her mother's strength and resilience, but there were times when she felt lonely. Her mother supported her dreams, but their financial struggles made it hard for Lena to attend professional ballet classes. Still, she held on to the belief that one day she would find a way to make it happen. When Lena turned 16, she got a part-time job at a local cafe. Every paycheck, she saved a portion of her earnings, hoping that it would one day allow her to pursue her dream of becoming a ballerina. She would sometimes hear her classmates talk about their ballet lessons, the exciting performances they had seen, and the prestigious schools they were planning to attend. It made her heart ache, but she refused to give up. At 18, Lena moved to the city, determined to start fresh. She enrolled in a local college and worked harder than ever at her studies and part-time jobs. But her passion for ballet never left her. One evening, after a long day of classes and work, Lena decided to visit a nearby dance studio she had passed several times before. The sign outside said, "Open ballet classes," and the idea of taking a real ballet class made her pulse quicken with excitement. With a mix of excitement and fear, Lena walked inside. The sound of soft piano music filled the room, and the sight of dancers stretching and practicing on the wooden floors made her heart race. She approached the front desk, her hands shaking slightly. "I'm here to inquire about your classes," Lena said, trying to sound confident. The woman at the desk looked her up and down, noting the worn sneakers on Lena's feet. "You're interested in ballet?" Lena nodded. "I've been practicing on my own for years, but I'd like to take real classes." The woman smiled warmly, sensing the sincerity in Lena's voice. "We have a beginner's class tomorrow evening. Why don't you come in and see for yourself?" Lena's heart leapt at the invitation. The next evening she stood at the studio entrance, clutching her old ballet shoes, nervous but determined. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she knew this was her chance. When the class began, Lena felt out of place. The other dancers seemed so much more experienced, their movements smooth and controlled. The teacher, a woman in her 40s with sharp, focused eyes, noticed Lena's hesitation. "You're a beginner, I take it?" she asked, though her tone wasn't unkind. Lena nodded, her face flushed. "Yes, but I've been practicing on my own for a long time." The teacher nodded thoughtfully. "Well, you're here now, and that's what matters. Ballet is about discipline, grace, and patience. It doesn't matter how long it takes to learn, as long as You're committed to the journey." For the next hour, Lena pushed herself harder than she ever had before. The warm-ups were painful, her muscles trembling as she stretched and moved in ways that felt unnatural. The other dancers made it look so easy, but Lena struggled to keep up. Yet, every time she stumbled or felt like giving up, she thought about how far she had come just to get to this point. She wasn't going to stop now. By the end of the class, Lena was exhausted. Her legs ached, and her feet felt like they were on fire. But there was a fire burning in her heart, too. She had made the first step toward her dream. It wasn't going to be easy, but she was determined to continue, no matter how difficult it became. The next few months were grueling. Lena attended every class she could, waking up early for morning stretches and returning to the studio after long days at work. She spent countless hours practicing in front of her bedroom mirror, perfecting her posture and movements. But no matter how hard she worked, there were moments when she felt like giving up. Her body was constantly sore, and the dream seemed so far away. She wasn't a child anymore, and her body wasn't as flexible as it once had been. Every class felt like a reminder of how much she still had to learn. But then, one day, after months of practice, Lena began to notice a change. Her movements were becoming smoother, more natural. She could hold her balance for longer periods, and her jumps felt higher, her turns sharper. She had grown stronger, not just physically, but mentally. The more she pushed through the pain, the more she realized that she had what it took to succeed. She wasn't just playing at ballet anymore. She was becoming a ballerina. One afternoon, as she was finishing up a particularly grueling class, her teacher called her over. The older woman looked at Lena, her eyes scanning her carefully. "You've been working very hard, Lena," the teacher said. "You've improved a lot. There's an audition coming up for a local ballet company, and I think you should consider trying out." Lena's heart skipped a beat. "An audition?" "Yes," her teacher said. "I think you have the potential. It won't be easy, but it's a chance you don't want to miss." For a moment, Lena just stood there, the weight of the words sinking in. This was what she had dreamed of for so long, an actual opportunity to be a professional ballerina. But it also scared her. She had no formal training, no background in performing professionally. Was she ready? But then she remembered all the years she had spent working toward this moment, all the times she had almost given up, but chose to keep going instead. "I'll do it," Lena said, her voice steady. "I'll audition." Her teacher smiled. "Good. I believe in you." That evening, Lena returned home and sat at her desk, her fingers trembling as she wrote down everything she needed to do to prepare for the audition. She wasn't just preparing for an audition, she was preparing to take the next step in a journey that had started long ago. When she was just a little girl, watching ballet performances on TV, it was time to make her dream a reality. Chapter 2. The Audition. Lena woke up early on the day of the audition. It was still dark outside, and the world felt quiet and still, as if holding its breath. She stood in front of her bedroom mirror, looking at the reflection staring back at her. A young woman, full of hope and determination, yet still unsure if she was truly ready for what lay ahead. The audition was only hours away, and her nerves threatened to overwhelm her. She took a deep breath and reminded herself why she was doing this. This was the moment she had been working toward for so long. All the hours of practice, all the sacrifices, all the pain, this was her chance to show the world what she was made of. Lena had prepared as best as she could. Her body was exhausted from months of intense training, but it had grown stronger, more graceful. She had practiced every step, every leap, and every turn until they felt natural. But nothing could fully prepare her for the pressure of performing in front of professionals, in a room full of expectations and judgment. After a quick breakfast, Lena packed her ballet bag, making sure she had everything she needed: her favorite pair of ballet shoes, a water bottle, a towel, and, of course, her confidence. She knew this was just the beginning. Even if she didn't get the part, the experience would be valuable. The important thing was to give it her all. She arrived at the audition location, a beautiful, old theater with high ceilings and large windows that let the sunlight pour in. The grandness of the space made her feel small, but also inspired. She could feel the energy in the air, the anticipation of the dancers who had gathered there, each of them with their own dreams, their own story. Some were more experienced than others, and a few even seemed calm and collected, as though this was just another day for them. But Lena felt like an outsider, unsure of how she would be received. The receptionist directed her to the dressing room, where she found several other dancers stretching and preparing. Lena's heart raced as she tried to focus on herself, but the nerves were getting the best of her. She couldn't help but feel a sense of self-doubt creeping in. Was she ready for this? What if she wasn't good enough? What if they didn't see the potential she knew she had? "Hey, you're going to do great," a friendly voice interrupted her thoughts. Lena turned to see a young woman in her late 20s, smiling warmly at her. She had an air of confidence that Lena envied. "Thanks," Lena said, trying to return the smile, though she could feel the nerves still bubbling inside her. "I'm Emily," the woman introduced herself. "I've auditioned here a few times before." "It's normal to feel nervous, but just remember you've trained hard. You belong here, just like everyone else." Lena nodded, feeling a little more reassured. It was nice to hear someone say that, especially when the pressure seemed to be mounting inside her. After some time, a studio assistant came in to gather the dancers. They were led into a large, bright room where a panel of judges sat at the front. Lena could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she walked across the floor. The judges were seated behind a table, and their serious expressions did nothing to calm her nerves. The instructor gave a brief introduction. "We'll start with a basic warm-up, followed by some center work, and then a few combinations at the bar. Afterward, we'll do a short solo for those who are called. Do your best, and remember, we're looking for potential, not perfection." The warm-up was the first hurdle Lena had to overcome. The music started, and she joined the other dancers in a series of stretches and exercises designed to prepare the body. Each stretch was meant to lengthen the muscles. Each plie meant to perfect her form. Lena focused on her breathing, trying to calm her racing heart. She could feel the eyes of the judges on her, evaluating every movement, every position. Then came the bar work. This was a familiar routine for Lena, something she had practiced countless times. It was supposed to be comforting, something she could rely on. But the pressure of the moment made it feel like she was performing for the first time. She had to focus harder than ever to keep her form perfect, to ensure each movement was fluid and precise. As she moved through the exercises, she felt the tension begin to melt away. She had trained for this moment, and with every stretch and pirouette, she regained some of her confidence. When it was time for the solo, Lena's nerves returned with a vengeance. The thought of performing alone in front of the judges made her stomach churn. She had chosen a piece that she felt showcased her strength and grace, a slow and deliberate movement that reflected her journey. But as the music began, something inside her clicked. The tension dissolved, and she felt the familiar rhythm take over her body. She moved effortlessly across the floor, her feet light and her arms flowing gracefully. The music became a part of her, guiding her every step. Her jumps were clean, and her turns were executed with perfect precision. For those few minutes, it was as if she and the music were one, connected in a way that made her forget about the judges, the room, the world outside. When the music ended, there was a long silence. Lena stood still, her body still vibrating with the energy of the dance. She had done it. She had poured her heart into that performance, and it felt like she had given everything she had. The judges remained silent for a moment longer before one of them, a middle-aged man with glasses, stood up and clapped slowly. "That was beautiful," he said, his voice calm and measured. "Your lines are strong, and your passion is evident. We'll need to see more of your technique in the upcoming rounds, but you certainly have the potential." Lena felt a rush of relief wash over her. She hadn't expected applause, but the validation from the judges was all she needed. She had made it past the first round. As the other dancers finished their auditions, Lena sat quietly, allowing the weight of the moment to settle in. She was proud of herself for taking the leap, for having the courage to audition in the first place. Whatever happened next, she had shown the world what she could do. The day of the audition ended, and Lena left the studio feeling exhausted but elated. She didn't know if she would get a call back or if she would be accepted into the company, but she knew one thing for sure. She had fought hard for this dream, and she would continue to do so. This was just the beginning.